the Canon R5 and if it's still worth it in 2024. What's up, guys? If you're new here, my name is Tucker Scott and I'm a professional photographer and videographer based out of San Clemente, California. And in today's video, we're going over the Canon R5 and if it is still worth it in 2024. Yes, there's a C70 sticker as a lens cap because I don't know where the R5 one went, so bear with me, whatever. But to let you guys know, this isn't going to be a 15 to 20 minute camera review video because if you ended up on this video, you've probably already Googled all the different specs and everything like that. In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my honest review of this camera. Canon is not paying me to make this video, nor sponsoring the video in any way, shape, or form. This is going to be my honest review. But there's a few things I want to cover before we get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the robust build of this camera and how it is weather sealed. I put this camera through dirt, snow, mud, rain, hail, you name it. I've even been hit by a Ford Bronco with this thing, and it has lived to tell the stories. The second thing I love about this camera is how the grip right here is just perfect for my big ass meaty hands. I can shoot horizontal, I can shoot vertically, and it just feels so compact and great in my hands. I've also added a small rig cage to this camera because I sometimes back in the day would shoot video with this camera, and I just have these different cold shoe mounts because I can put my Insta360 here to shoot behind the scenes, and it just fits perfectly. I also love how compact this camera is. I'm able to put this camera on my camera bag and just have it stay right here with the Peak Designs plate on the bottom. And it fits, doesn't bobble, doesn't hit me in the face, none of that. It just sits here perfectly, and that way I can grab it, shoot with it, or have a sling over me, and it just sits here. So I love how small and compact this camera is. The second thing I love about this camera is the 45 megapixel full frame sensor built into this little bastard. I love it because I'm able to either print my work or just have high-res images to send to clients. Yes, the file sizes are big, but in my opinion, I think it's worth it. I just love the fact that I can even control the highlights and the shadows differently and really manipulate the photo if I have to. The third thing from a photography and videography aspect of this camera is the autofocus. The autofocus in this thing is freaking game changer. You can do cars, faces, animals, eyes, I believe helmets. I'm not quite sure because I never used that feature. But overall, the autofocus on this camera is amazing. The fourth thing I want to talk about is the 5-axis in-body image stabilization, aka IVIS. I love this because I am able to drag my shutter so low to get those nice panning shots to get that really crisp motion blur, and the IVIS takes out all the wobble when I'm going up and down. I could probably get down to 1/8 of a shutter on some shots, and I love that about this camera. I tried that on the R5C, and let me tell you, it's not the same. So you're almost cheating with the R5, which is why I love the camera so much, because the in-body image stabilization allows you to get those smooth, buttery panning shots. Now for the video side, I do love the in-body image stabilization. I will say though, on certain lenses, when you're shooting wide, you get the wobble on the edges and it starts to drive you nuts down the line. But personally, I just wasn't a big fan of the in-body stabilization on the video side of things. And I work a lot more with this camera on the commercial side for photo. Point number 5 that I want to come across with this camera is the low light capabilities of this camera. Yes, Canon isn't known to have the best low light in certain situations, but if you know how to work the camera right, it will perform well. Recently, I shot with KC Highlights, an off-road light company, and let me tell you, we were up at 3, 4 in the morning and we were shooting in the dark till dawn, then into the sunrise, then into the morning. But let me tell you, this camera outperformed my expectations. The photos I got are some of my favorite photos. And then even shooting into, sunset, golden hour, blue hour till nighttime, this camera blew me away. So really it comes down to the person and how you use this camera. But honestly, I was blown away with the low light capabilities. I personally think that this camera did just fine. So like I said, enough rattling off about the features of the camera because that's not why you guys are still watching this video. My honest review of this camera is this is the workhorse of all my commercial shoots when it comes to photography. I absolutely love this camera. Like I said, I put it through the ringer. The IBIS on this, everything has just been phenomenal. And quite frankly, I don't see myself switching cameras anytime soon. Maybe when the R5 Mark II comes out, potentially, but for now, this camera has exceeded all my expectations. So enough with the photography talk, let's switch over to the videography side of things with the Canon R5. Overall, I love this camera. I love shooting video with it. I vlog with it majority of the time, but for now I'm on the R5C. But for starters, let's talk about the C-Log 3. I do not like it on the Canon R5. I don't know what it is between the R5 and the R5C, but honestly, it looks a hell of a lot better on the R5C, and I have the hardest time color grading on the R5. Maybe that's just me personally, but I just can't stand it with the magentas and the blues and just the shadows to get crushed. I could just go on about it. But the features, and if you know how to work it, maybe I just don't. I love the autofocus, works just as well on photo as it does with video. The 4K 120, I clearly haven't had a ton of overheating issues with it, but I know a lot of other people have. Maybe it's just the model that I got, they fixed the majority of the overheating. But for me, it hasn't overheated in quite some time. So I can't really talk about the overheating aspect of this camera. But the IBIS, like I said, the wobble, it's fixable, but at the same time, it's just, you get sick after a while. It's just, whoa. But overall, on the video side of things, the file sizes are enormous compared to the R5C. But then again, that's just, this was their step into the mirrorless game. One thing across the board with the photo and video side is their ability to connect the EF lenses to the RF mount. I still shoot on a Canon 70-200 EF, Canon 300 EF, and I was shooting on the 24-70 EF until I got the RF version. But I see no lack of image quality when you put that EF to RF adapter on, even when you put in the ND filters to use the little scrolly wheel. So I will have to say using the EF to RF adapter is pretty solid. But who is this camera for? I think this camera is for any entry level or even commercial photographer that is trying to scale his business to the next level. This camera is meant for you. For the price of $28.99, you can't really get a much better camera than this, in my opinion. The interface is amazing, the IBIS is amazing, the video is amazing, the autofocus is amazing. Everything about this camera is amazing, minus the overheating, which I still didn't have any issues with. So honestly, if you're a filmmaker or photographer trying to get into the game, I think that this camera is the best camera for you on the market as we speak. That being said, I'm not sure, rumor has it the Canon R5 Mark II is coming out July of 2024, which is in like a month, so we'll see what happens then. But just keep your eye on the Canon R5 because I think that this camera is one of the best and is still relevant in 2024. And I will still continue to use this camera in all of the commercial photo shoots I have going forward because this thing is a beast and I think it beats the Canon R5C as far as a couple other aspects, but that might be another video for another time. Anyways, I'm done talking in front of the camera. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like down below. If you have any comments or questions, hit those below. I'll respond. And if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. And while you're at it, go look at the Canon R5. Maybe it's the right camera for you. We'll have to see. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video. Later. Is the Canon R5 still really worth it in 2024? We'll have to find out. How's my audio?